welcome to Podtoid. We are your host. I'm CJ.
I'm Chris.
I'm Dan.
I'm Charlotte.
I'm Malcolms.
And this is episode 435. Thank you for joining us. We have a decent show in store for you today. We're going to be talking about some Deadly Premonition, Platinum Games news, and a little bit later we're going to be answering a couple listener questions. But before we get into any of that, Dan, welcome back.
Hello. I'm back.
That was the art show.
It was very boring. A lot of old people just staring at pictures of animals mostly. And yeah. I don't think I can name a single person, like I shouldn't say name, saw a single person under the age of 50 at said art show I was at with my mother. So it was something.
That does not sound like a way I'd like to spend a Sunday. I once had to cover for local news a quilting show, and it was like I was visiting my grandmother's retirement community. It was just
that's basically what it was. There was like a dog show there too and everything. It was I played Switch all day.
Even though Dan's like, I don't know, 21, I don't know. Even though Dan's like 21, the way he told that story, I just had him pictured in the back of a car with a Switch with his seatbelt on, just like he was 10 years old. You know what I mean?
Good mom.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's just kind of how it came across.
Don't want to go to the stinking art show.
It's like like Teenage Groot in Infinity War, where he's just playing that Defend LCD game while he's walking around.
Now that's just what I'm going to picture Dan as all this time. He's no longer 21 or however old he is. He's going to be 12 in my mind.
There we go.
I'm pretty sure Dan's pretty much the same age as me, and I'm not 21. Right?
No.
What?
Yeah, to alarm all of you, I'm 27, so.
Yeah.
Welcome back, and at least you got to play some Switch at the art show. I tried to find a funny story to kick this show off this week, but god damn, this last 7 days were just a nightmare. The best I could find this week is that the story of doctors are pleading with people to stop sticking potatoes in their assholes. And I know what you're thinking, but CJ, they're perfectly shaped to go in the butt. No, they're not. Unless you're getting one of those fingerling potatoes. Doctors had to issue the warning this week after numerous websites reported putting potatoes in your ass will help cure your hemorrhoids. Shockingly, the cure to the piles isn't a potato. The websites pointed at the potato's naturally occurring astringent and told people to insert a frozen potato slice into their ass for 30 seconds every day over the course of 5 days.
Where did you say? Sorry, where did you say reported this?
The places reporting the doctors telling people not to do it was on actual websites, whereas all of the websites that were reporting it are those like natural healing websites or
essential oils.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Goop, basically.
Yeah, Goop.
I bet Goop sells their own brand of potato for shoving up your ass.
And it's $400.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't like. I get the idea of sometimes the medically speaking, since I'm a doctor, the rectum does have a lot of it's very porous with a lot of open membranes and stuff. That's why some medicine taking rectally can be more effective, or butt chugging can kill you.
Yes.
And get you real fucked up. The potato. I don't. That's no.
Well, I'm not going to try it. That's for sure.
All you have to do is drink a lot of water and go on a high fiber diet. Is that too much to ask? Is that really
yes.
You were asking people to drink water and have a high fiber diet? Yes.
I looked for hours yesterday and hours today for just something of interest to start this fucking show off with, but it's just been a crap week. Ugh.
Well, to be fair, did you look for something of interest, or did you specifically look for something of interest that also involved like having stuff like inserted into places, or like shit, or piss, or
Hey,
something?
look, we have a
man.
quality level to meet here each week. High standards for low quality.
The only better story I found was the duck army in China, but that's like more video and picture, and this is just podcast. But China has a duck army.
That is a great image, by the way. There are all those ducks lined up. That was awesome.
Now, if you know what it reminded me of Batman Returns with all the penguins lined up walking down the street. Like that is exactly what it reminded me of.
I love those penguins. I love that some like the like really close up penguins are animatronic, and then there were just a bunch of real life fucking penguins with rockets on their backs just walking around.
Oh man, yeah. They take a real leap from that first film to into that second movie. They really
do.
fucking do. Like when they go from a gangster who paints himself to look like a clown to literally a mutant guy who lives in the sewers with his clown army and jetpack wearing penguins.
Who steals children.
Yeah. And also like Batman's just fucking killing dudes left, right, and center. Like
Yes,
in
he
that
should.
movie. Like
Yeah.
which is always funny because I remember when Dawn of Justice or whatever came out, and he kills like some people in it, and people are like, this is outrageous. And it's like he kills a lot of fucking people in those Tim Burton Batman movies. Like he really does.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the beginning of Batman Returns, when he pulls out his batarang that's like he can put in where the people are, so it seeks them out and hits them.
Right.
Doesn't that get thwarted by a little dog at the very end?
I can't remember.
Like it
'Cause,
just
like-
hits 6 people, and then like this tiny little chihuahua jumps up and grabs it.
Right.
Yeah, that did happen.
And Pee Wee Herman like appears at the beginning as Penguin's dad as well, doesn't he? He's like
Yes.
you know that one.
Yeah. Really, Paul Rubens has a great history of just kind of underappreciated roles. Like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, no one knew that was him.
The show or the
He
movie?
The movie. I never watched the show. He was the Rutger Hauer's like henchman, like the main dude.
Right, yeah.
No one knew that was him.
It's kind of a hot take, but I don't really care for Batman Returns. Like I think people really big that film up more than I think it's kind of a lower tier Batman movie. I think it's got some really good performers in it. I think DeVito and Pfeiffer and Keaton are all great in those roles and all look fantastic. But it's indulgent as fuck, and it's way too long.
It's
and,
Tim.
like,
It's Tim Burton looking in the mirror and just being like, "I'm so fucking Tim Burton," and
what basically happened is he made so much fucking money off that first movie that for the second film they just said to him, "Do whatever you want, and we won't tell you you can't. We won't stop you at any point." And he just went out of fucking control. So I kind of think Batman Returns is like a mess.
And I think part of the problem is he was trying to bring in some of the cheesiness of the '66 show with like the penguins and all, but didn't like. He still just made it creepy, but it didn't work either way.
There's a bit where like his clown army basically reprogrammed the Batman bit.
Yeah.
It's like, how the fuck did they learn how to do that?
And like, and you have to remember that like the device they put underneath like the undercarriage of the car had like a big spinny ball, like it was a clown thing. It was.
Well, that's
But
how you
still,
know it was
like-
them.
Yeah.
Not some other gang that just took over the Batmobile.
I always remember, like, when I was a kid, we had like a problem with bullies down at a local park, and we used to go to this park a lot. But then we kind of had to stop going because there were all these fucking bullies there all the time. And my friend Joe, who I haven't seen in forever, came up with the idea that we should all just fucking turn up in a giant present dressed as clowns, because he says if that happened to me, there's no way I'd go back to that park ever again. And he was fucking serious. But I was just like, where are we going to get a giant present from?
I remember really, really, really liking that movie when I saw it as a kid. That was my first movie that I saw in theaters, or at least that I can remember.
Yeah.
But then a few years ago, I was listening to one of Kevin Smith's podcasts, and he was just railing on both of the Tim Burton Batman movies, but particularly Batman Returns. And so I went back and watched it, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this does not hold up. The only thing I really like in it at the end is just Catwoman. And
There's going to be people who are fucking outraged by what we're saying, and I apologize to them because there's a lot of people who think that's the second best Batman film ever made or whatever, and I apologize to those people. Yeah, a lot of people love Batman Returns. They think it's fucking amazing.
I thought that until I watched it again. Like
that's fair.
In my mind, it was Dark Knight, but then Batman Returns, right?
See, for me, if between the two Tim Burton ones, it's the first one all the way. It was a cleaner film. I thought it was a visually stronger film. It made more sense. I still don't understand how Catwoman showed up. that whole thing, it's just kind of like, yeah, sure, she's like a cat zombie. I don't, but no, I thought that was a much better movie. Plus, Prince soundtrack. Seriously, guys,
Yeah.
Prince fucking soundtrack.
Let's just fucking cancel the podcast and all just go and watch Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah, really.
There, segment saved. We can move on.
This is Podtoid.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to something else. And Occams, why don't you kick us off with a few of your thoughts?
All right, let me turn on my thing here. I have my notes written down. Okay, so no game this week. All right, but I have a couple thoughts, and I have a TV show I'd like to talk about real quick. Much like my dad, when he discovered the magic of streaming television nearly a decade after the fact, I have recently discovered an Adult Swim TV show called Mr. Pickles. It's about a satanic dog who protects a boy with leg braces, and his main method of doing this is murdering people. And some of the highlights include tearing the faces off of many, many people, and then dismembering them and like wearing their limbs like stilts and wearing their faces over his face, and then walking around like he's a person. And it's a cartoon show, and it's delightful. And I think it came out in 2013. So,
What type of animation does Mr. Pickles use?
ooh, I would say kind of earlier version Rick and Morty.
Okay. I was just wondering if it was like the stop or claymation that they did for some of their shows. Like
No, no Moral Oral.
Was that? Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Moral Oral season 3, some of the best television ever made.
Yeah.
So just putting that out there for anyone who hasn't seen it. Like, I legit cried in a couple episodes of Moral Oral season 3. Oof, good stuff.
I think that was the only Adult Swim cartoon I watched all the way through. I don't think anything else I've kept up with. And I really like other shows like Venture Brothers and stuff, but their production schedule's weird.
Yeah, it is. And I think I've seen most of Venture Brothers, a couple others, but yeah, it's Moral Oral season 3 felt like actual television and not just a bunch of white dudes who were stoned in a room who got lucky. All right, that's Mr. Pickles. It's on Hulu. Here's some thoughts. The only good cruise is an Alaskan cruise. Though maybe right now there are no good cruises.
There are no good cruises right now.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise?
No,
No.
like we said, no good cruises.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah. It must be really disappointing to meet someone who is funny and cool, only to find out that they're really, really into astrology. I've watched a lot of Twitch lately. I'm looking for the bottom of the barrel here, and I find it. And I've realized that if YouTube is cable, then hey Kat, then Twitch is public access. Okay. And makes me very happy because I've been looking for another public access for years, and YouTube got too polished, so it's nice to have Twitch. I'm amending a previous statement I made where I thought vaping looked like you were sucking a robot's dick. Mm-hmm. I want to say now vaping looks like you're drinking out of a robotic juice box.
Yes.
I get that pizza is on a Chinese buffet. I get that. Children and just people who want pizza at a Chinese buffet for whatever insane reason. But I don't understand the salad. I don't understand the salad bar at a Chinese buffet.
It's cheap.
Yeah, but like, man, why? There's not like, it's just the same salad you get anywhere, and it's always the most basic shit. And that's if the salad at a Chinese buffet, that's the lowest quality, just expired salad you can get. And I'm including like Golden Corral and Luby's and all those places. So,
well, first of all, the salad is always going to be the lowest common denominator, just the lowest quality at any salad bar you go to, unless the restaurant is like specifically a salad bar. But do you have a go-to item at Chinese buffets?
Ooh, well, that's a great question. You've opened a Pandora's box, my friend.
I go with hot pork buns. I run to wherever they have those steaming, and I grab like 4 or 5 of them.
See, and you have had the benefit of living in a place that had a large enough population to support a place that would do steamed pork buns.
Oh yeah.
We had to find like specific dim sum places for that. But when I've been to Chinese buffets that have them, hell yeah, pretty much anything that's on the dim sum menu or dim sum part of the buffet, I am all for. If the lo mein looks good, I'm always a fan of lo mein. You got to have the thicker noodles. It needs to be kind of brown. Usually, if you do it in a peanut oil, that's the secret, by the way. I love a good egg roll. 9 times out of 10, they're just the frozen kind, but you just, there's a simplicity to an egg roll. It's a comfort. It's like a corn dog, macaroni and cheese, your mom's shitty hamburgers. It's just a comfort food. And I do love a good sesame chicken, the authentic Chinese food sesame chicken. What about y'all? That I want to put that question out to everybody. Any Chinese buffet fans?
I've attended one before. I don't know. The place that I used to go to with my family had really, really good chicken noodle soup. It was very hearty, very, very tasty. So I would often have 2 bowls of that to start with. And another place we went to had this dessert, which was just like vanilla ice cream, but also had these like parcels of fried dough, like with fried pineapple in them. And that was really good.
That sounds delightful. Never heard of that before, and I love it.
I do always like that. Basically, every Chinese buffet I've been to, the dessert is always either like over frozen ice cream or chocolate pudding in those little cups.
Yeah, and I love like the tiny cakes. Like they always have the coffee flavored one and the chocolate one. I love those. I'm also a sucker for, and truly in all caps, sucker for the sushi portion of a Chinese buffet. I know it's not good. I know. I'm not stupid. I know what I'm doing. But I just, yes, I want 8 California rolls alongside my dim sum, my lo mein, and the 17 different fried things I got for no reason.
It's too embarrassing to go to a sushi place and get like a mountain pile of sushi, but I don't give a shit at a Chinese buffet. I will get a plate full of sushi. It's crap sushi, but I don't care.
Where I work, there's this. We have a colleague who is he's on a swim team, and he's in incredible shape, and he works very hard, and he eats a lot because he has this insane metabolism. And I have challenged him to a Chinese buffet eat-off because I'm on the other side of that spectrum. Though I try to keep in health and keep in shape. It's he does it because he's like busy all the time, and I do it just because I don't want to die at 40.
Yeah.
But I've seen him eat, and it's impressive. And there's a part of me that's like, no, I'm gonna beat you in something, motherfucker. And it's gonna be sodium intake. And my last thought is my first real life horror movie monster was the truck that sprayed for mosquitoes, and I feel like this may be a southern thing. Maybe I don't know if Canada or England has anything like that. So
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
okay, CJ,
We had that once when there was the Zika. When Zika was the big thing, like we had a truck come around. So
you need to look up a video of this, but let me try to describe it to you. Imagine a beat up pickup truck with like some kind of weird apparatus, like a big liquid tank that has a giant spray nozzle on the back.
Okay.
But you don't see it. You hear it. You hear it coming from probably, I'd say, 2 or 3 blocks away. The sound is sort of a robotic drone. Imagine if it was a fly the size of a Buick that screamed. And that's about what it sounds like. And it sprays out this fog. It just this fog that like spreads out from the back of this truck, and it's spraying to kill mosquitoes because it's a real problem in the South. And imagine being 5 and seeing that and thinking, and rightly so, that the fog is poison and that it will kill you. Right. And like your parents wouldn't let you go outside when the mosquito truck was spraying, but it was just a thing that happened like every Tuesday for 6 months of the year. So mosquito truck. Oof.
So I've been playing a few games this week. One I really want to talk about, but I'm under embargo until the middle of next month. But before I got that, I did start playing some more Deadly Premonition, getting a little bit further in the game, and like I now kind of can understand why it got such a wide array of reviews on this game, calling it either garbage or, as Destructoid did, brilliant. Because it really does feel like it is a PlayStation 1 game that looks like a PlayStation 2 game that somehow got released on the PlayStation 3. York just is terrifying to look at every time he smiles, because he has those sonic human teeth in his mouth, and is just unsettling. I've checked into the hotel at the beginning of the game. I've went and done a few investigations, and then I'm really just in love with how bizarre Swery let himself get with this game, because you have that sequence where at the beginning where he is talking to the old woman who runs the hotel, and like the music is just blaring over them, and so like you need the subtitles there to actually hear what they're saying, to understand what they're saying. And you get to the police station, and you go on that hunt for all the different keys, and it's all these different squirrels or little woodland creatures. And the guy who's, I think his name is Tom, he's like, no, that's not the right squirrel we're looking for. That's this squirrel. And then he goes on a long explanation of that type of squirrel is. And it's just like, I'm playing this, and I feel like it is someone who watched Twin Peaks, got really hammered, and decided to see if he could out Twin Peaks, right? Just with the writing of this game, because it's not, I don't want to say it's off the wall, but it really is in terms of the setting and everything else that was coming out around that time. That this is just, it's kind of bonkers with the decisions that they made with this game. Driving in particular has been hilarious, because like, this is the worst driving I've ever had in a video game, but it kind of makes sense that that's the way to do it, at least having you be inside the car as you are, because he has those talks with himself as he drives. And it's just, I'm bewildered the further I get into it. I want to see how far down this like Twin Peaks rabbit hole this game goes.
Have you made a Sinner's sandwich yet?
No, I have not.
No. Okay.
Sinner sandwich? Let me write that down.
You're not aware of the Sinner sandwich?
Huh?
No? You're not aware of the Sinner sandwich?
No, I'm completely blank on this game. I know nothing about it.
It's basically, it's not a spoiler or anything, but it's basically, it's something that York, it's a food that York makes for himself, which is basically, it's like a purposefully bad sandwich that he feels people should eat to atone for like their misdeeds that they made.
Isn't it like turkey?
Yeah.
Strawberry jam?
Yeah.
Shreddies?
Well, it's cereal in general.
Oh, I always thought in my head it was like frosted shreddies or something.
Maybe
I don't know.
I think there's infamously a story. This has got not much to do with anything, but I think I remember around the time it came out, Jim Sterling was it might have been at E3 for Destructoid, and they had a Sinner sandwich competition where a load of people had to make the best Sinner sandwich they could, and the fucking mess they made in that hall basically, I think, meant that like no one was allowed to use those halls again, like in the future, something along those lines. Anyway, yeah, because there was just fucking jam and shreddies everywhere.
I think I'm getting shreddies actually because when Johnny Chiodini was still at Eurogamer, he had a series on YouTube of like making video game food, and I think he definitely made this in a sandwich, so he probably used shreddies.
So that's something you got to look forward to that we've ruined for you.
No, that's fine.
What are the things you mentioned, like how it looks and all? If this game looked good, I'd be disappointed. I need it. I need it to look how it looks. I love how it looks.
It's all part of the charm, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of feels timeless in that way, or maybe of a different era. I don't know, but I love that goddamn game so much. I love it when video games try to do something different. It's so fucking pleasant. Oh, love it.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to you, Chris. You've been jumping into Bloodstained, I see.
Yes, I've been playing a Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which I dodged entirely last year because I was too busy buried under other things. Mm-hmm. I jumped into it at the beginning of this year, and then some other things came along immediately, and I had stuck out. But I'm back on board now, and I'm sort of late to the party here, so I've not really got anything to say that a lot of people don't already know. But it's a Castlevania game. We're all in on it. We all get the joke. You know what I mean? But it is just one of those kind of open Metroidvania, obviously, Castlevania titles where you control a character and you take on a number of like huge bosses that are just dotted around this huge castle, and then you get lost and you look for the gaps on the map that you haven't explored yet, and then you go down those and you find eventually you get the double jump, and then eventually you get the wall jump, and it's that. But the thing is because obviously it's Igarashi, it's so well done, and I think it's really good. I really like the main character of Miriam, and it's got some pretty good music in it. Not like amazing music, but it's kind of cool. And it's got some really creative bad guys in it. It's like they couldn't decide whether to make it a stained glass tarantula or a stained glass hand. So they made it both, basically. It's a stained glass hand that moves like a tarantula. There's a giant cat that's just like sticking its head through a wall. And it doesn't even really look like a demonic cat. It just looks like a house cat.
And that was it looked annoyed when you attacked it. I love that.
Yeah. At first I played it in Japanese because I thought, I'm not sure if the voice acting in English is going to be up to standard. But then I realized that's kind of part and parcel of the Castlevania experience. So I changed it back to English. And it's most of it's right. Like, fortunately, Miriam, the main character, is really good. But everyone else is doing that thing where English, like, farm folk all sound like that little girl from Australia in The Simpsons. You know the episode where Bart calls Australia, and that girl's like, "It's an emergency." Like, that's what basically everyone in this game sounds like, which is just how they always do peasants, English peasants in video games. But it's got the typical kind of Castlevania combat in it, but there's this really good alchemy mechanic where you find ingredients, you take them to a guy and he can turn them into powers, or he can add buffs to your weapons and your armor. And it's got like an overly dramatic, overly theatrical narrative. But other than that, it's everything that you kind of expect from these games. It's got the same kind of exploration, the same kind of combat. So many enemies that you'll recognize, such as like the flying books that when you hit them, words fall out of them and those kind of things. I think it's really good and I'm really enjoying it. I'm hoping I complete it quicker than I completed Symphony of the Night, which I think I bought in 1998 and then I finished in 2014, something like that. So here's hoping that I kind of get this down. You know, it takes me less than like a decade to get this game finished. But I'm sure a lot of people listening to this know all this because they've already played it. But I'm really glad I finally got around to it. It's everything that one of those games needs to be, and it's really kind of scratching the itch for me at the moment.
I know when it launched, it had a lot of negative press because of the poor condition of the Switch version, and so I know of a lot of people who bought the Switch version. Either they backed it on the Kickstarter like I did, or that's the version they bought at launch, who then just didn't play it because it's like, oh, this isn't nearly as good as all those other versions. So, I assume there's probably still a lot of people who have been holding on to it, waiting for it to be, pitch perfect to play on Switch. So hopefully you just inspired them to actually kick it off, because it's not that bad on Switch. They've made a lot of progress.
Well, I'm playing it on PS4 and it's been absolutely fine, but there's this one section that's like this huge clock tower, and you're running around the outside of it, very similar to, if anyone remembers the level from Ghouls and Ghosts, there's a level where you're running around the outside of a pillar, and it's like that. And they've got this huge 3D rendered clock tower, and the game basically takes a shit when you go into that room. And it's really frustrating because it's like the only room I've come across where that's happened. And I always get frustrated by frame rate drops in games because I'm amazed they're still a thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not a coder. I don't know how it, I don't know. I know how difficult it is. And I know that this is like a crowdfunded game, but it still blows my mind that frame rate drops are something that we see frequently in video games, even after they've been patched. But it's the one part of the game that feels like the performance takes a huge dip when you're I don't know if the PC version's like completely on the ball. Maybe it is. So I don't know. But I do think if people didn't play it because they got the Switch version and that was like not working out for them, and then they moved on to other things, I think it's worth jumping back in and taking a look at this game, because I don't think it's going to rock your world or anything, but it's a really good, just, put a couple of hours into it every couple of days, push a little further, open up a bit more of the map. I'm really enjoying it.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up with Charlotte. Charlotte, you've been playing two games that seem like the polar opposite of one another.
Yeah, I mean, but I think Kiryu would really like Animal Crossing New Leaf.
Probably.
Yeah. So I finished Kiwami 2 yesterday and I started Yakuza 3 because I'm playing through all of them this year. And Yakuza 3 is a bit of a weird one because it's not Kiwami, meaning it's just a prettified version of the original PS3 game. It's not remade in any shape or form, really.
Mhm.
And you can tell, like, it doesn't look all that impressive. I mean, but to be honest, like the content of it's not that there's a bit less of it. Like it's not quite as in depth as a Kiwami 2 sort of playthrough where you can just do a huge amount of stuff. And during your playthrough, like for Kiwami 2, I only really got about 55% of the completion list done, even though I was trying to do everything. But it feels like with Yakuza 3, you can get everything done if you try. It's got a hostess club like the other games, so it's got golf, it's got like, you know, darts. It's basically got everything that the newer ones have, so I'm pretty pleased with it. And the story is also a bit odd in the sense of I haven't done much fighting yet, and it feels like most of what I've done has been babysitting, like literal babysitting. Like I run an orphanage, so
By the beach, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
by the beach in Okinawa. So but somehow I'm still really enjoying it, even though there's not that much fighting, and the story actually seems to be pretty good. I mean, people told me that Kiwami 2 had the best story out of all of them. I'm not quite sure I agree. It was a very, very good story, but I think 0 and 1 had just as strong stories, and 3 is a different kind of story. It's not quite as violent. It's more about exploring who Kiryu is as a softer individual, and I'm kind of okay with that. I think apart from just getting over the fact it's not quite as pretty or as fancy as the Kiwami or 0, it's taking a little bit, but overall I think it's shaping up to be just as good a game as the 3 that I played before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on this because a lot of people point to Yakuza 2 as the best one. A lot of people point to Yakuza 3 as the weakest. But I genuinely I prefer 3 to 2. I think Yakuza 2 is a great game. I think the second half, I think the narrative really falls apart, and I really don't like the climax. And there's something about the pace of 3 and the more kind of relaxed atmosphere that it has, particularly towards the beginning, and you know the beach, and it's a really kind of bright, sunny game, and obviously it's. Kazuma's rocking his like Hawaiian shirt and chinos for like the majority of the, and there's. After the chaos of those first 2 games, I think this whole thing of him running the orphanage is really well done. Unfortunately, because the Yakuza games have such fucking great dramatic scenes as in like really good cinematics, I find it a really fascinating story to see how he kind of starts rebuilding his life once he kind of tries to move away from his like Yakuza lifestyle with him and Haruka and like the kids at this beach. Yakuza 3 is also, because so many people came on board with 0, it should be noted that Yakuza 3 is the game that in the original chronology started bringing in some of the wildness of the series. It is the stuff that's already in Kiwami 1 and 2 because people are now used to it being in the series. In the original like PS2 games, those games are kind of straight, and it's Yakuza 3 that really starts to bring in the bizarre comedy and the stuff like, I believe it's Yakuza 3 where you can take photos of things in the street and they teach you wrestling moves and stuff like that. And those kind of weird mechanics all kind of came along with 3. And so, although 3 is considered like one of the weaker entries, ironically, it's where the series developed its taste for the weirdness that in a roundabout way led to the making of Yakuza 0, which is the game that blew the series up in the first place. So if that makes sense, Yakuza 3 may be the weakest game, but it's the blueprint for what will eventually get the whole world playing Yakuza games.
Yeah, I mean, you can beat somebody up with a fish. What more do you want? Yeah. Apart from that, I've been playing Animal Crossing, but like Yakuza, sorry, I always say it wrong. It's kind
I
of
don't
my.
think it matters. I don't know.
Yeah.
It does. It's like anime versus anime. It just doesn't fucking matter.
I mean, that's my evening game and what I've been mostly playing. Because the thing with Animal Crossing New Leaf, and I think this is why I didn't enjoy Wild World as much as a kid, is that I've realized Animal Crossing is best when you play it in short bursts.
Yeah.
So I've been playing New Leaf during my lunch break at work and a little bit after work to make sure that I can get done what I need to get done before the shops in the game close. So yeah, I started Animal Crossing New Leaf exactly a week ago. So on the train back from where I usually am at the weekend, and I basically started a brand new game and just caught stuff, tried to build up my display in the Museum of Fossils and just chip away at it. And actually, I managed to pay off my first down payment pretty quickly. But then you ask for an extension, and it's like 3 times the amount of the first down payment. You're like, oh, this is how they get you. So yeah, I'm going to continue just when I need to calm down a bit, just doing a bit of fishing, doing a bit of and my neighbors are starting to trust me, and I have Aurora as one of my neighbors, and she is very cute. So I don't have the best neighbors at the moment, to be quite honest. None of them are really like memorable ones, apart from Aurora, who is just this very cute penguin in a pink t-shirt. So yeah, actually it was really funny. I happened to start my game the day before. I think it's called Festivale in Animal Crossing, so it's like a parody of Carnival. And so I saw Pave doing his little samba dance and rainbow feathers flying everywhere, which was a really nice introduction to the festivals in Animal Crossing, because I don't think I saw that many when I was a kid playing Wild World. I don't know if they had them in Wild World or if I was just unlucky. Okay, yeah. So it's great. Like, it's a very slow burn. I'm going to try and play Animal Crossing now and then for the next few months, rather than like, I think that I just lost patience with it as a kid because I was trying to get everything done as fast as possible. So
yeah, I remember doing that with Wild World, just like because I was in college when I had that one, and so I was just like, get through it, and I was just like, oh, I didn't have as much fun with this one as I did on GameCube, where I took it slow, took it day by day, and you are right, playing it just for 30 minutes at a time a day is basically all you need.
That's how it starts, though. And then you're hunting beetles at like midnight. That's when you know you've lost all control.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, that is it for games, which means it is time for the news.
This is the news.
Obviously, the big news story of the week has been the coronavirus, as it continues to just wreak havoc on the world and industry. But I don't want to talk about that because it's depressing, and also I would hate to start fear-mongering or give people bad information or do whatever it is that people are doing on Amazon by selling cures for coronavirus. So instead, let's talk about giant robots and kaiju.
Hell yeah.
This week, Platinum Games dropped a teaser trailer for what will be its first independently developed and distributed game, currently known as Project G.G. The trailer basically looks like Ultraman the video game. If you watch the trailer and then go watch the Ultraman movie trailer from 2016, you'll see a lot of similarities between the monster in that movie and the monster in Project G.G. The game is being directed by Hideki Kamiya. Nope, I didn't say that right at all. Hideki Kamiya?
Hideki Kamiya.
Hideki Kamiya. Okay. Who has directed some of the best games ever made in the industry, including the original Resident Evil 2, Okami, and Bayonetta. Project G.G. will be the third game in Kamiya's superhero trilogy that started with Beautiful Joe and continued with The Wonderful 101, which we all know has a remastered edition coming out in May, I think it was. I play just about anything that comes from Platinum Games, their Ninja Turtles game aside. But I'm particularly excited about this one because I don't think the giant monster genre has been adequately covered by video games. Occams,
Yo,
what do you think?
dude, I was so fucking thrilled when this was announced. Like, I'm kind of the same way. Platinum makes a game, cool, I'm there. They brand loyalty 100%. and then it's a fucking kaiju game. Like, yes, for me, the heyday of those were the King of the Monsters arcade games. I miss them so much. There've been Godzilla games here and there. None of them seem to get that right. I don't know why they can't seem to balance sense of scale with like making a competent fighting game. There was a game on PS2. Chris, you may remember it somewhat. It was Robot Alchemic Drive or something like that, RAD, but you essentially controlled, like you had a split screen and there was the robot, the monster fighting, but you were like a person controlling it with a remote control. It was a really interesting kind of take on it. The perspective would switch. And someone out there is probably screaming at their podcast right now listening to this because they remember it better than I do. But I remember that was a fun take, if not a very well-made game, but a really good idea that just maybe had a flawed execution. But I'm thrilled at this because they have style. They know how to make a perfect fucking combat system. And this is I saw this, and other than it being a Shadow Hearts remake, which is my answer to everything always when someone's going to announce a new game.
Yeah.
This is out of the park for me. I can't wait to see what it is. CJ, did you play King of the Monsters back in the day?
Oh God, yes, both of them.
God, it's so good.
I think I also bought them on the Wii when they released them on Virtual Console. I'd have to check though.
I had the Super Nintendo version, I guess, but
yeah.
It was just so good, man. War of the Monsters, PS2. That was a fun one. Not a little cheap. That final boss fight was a bitch.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
Incognito.
Yeah, I think that's actually a PS4 download right now. That's running around somewhere. But that one wasn't bad. But no, I'm this, like in my brain, because I'll start cross-referencing, just the hyper nerd in me kicks in. I'm like, okay, so here's like the 10 Godzilla monsters that I love, and I'm trying to see how that could influence whatever design they do. Then I think about the stuff that they make, and my brain goes places. And I'm really, really excited for it.
I don't know whether they'll do it, but I'm hoping that Project GG has that thing going on that so many kaiju games or kaiju movies that come out of Japan have, where they have such a clear pro wrestling influence. Where like, because with King of the Monsters, those games, and with films like Super Inframan and which was the older Shaw Brothers movie, everyone's always just doing wrestling moves. Like, even though that it's like a giant dragon, he'll still just do like a perfect German suplex or whatever. Like, the hero's always doing like drop kicks and stuff. And if I remember right, in King of the Monsters, like you still had to actually pin your opponent. You beat them up, but you still had to pin them for the count of 3, counted by some unseen referee. So
God.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that Project GG still kind of, essentially, I'm hoping it's the greatest wrestling game ever made.
This is Podtoid.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. That is it for news. And as this is the first show of the month, it is time to open the mailbag.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail.
Very light mailbag today. I think my headline soliciting questions was no bueno, so that's on me. Let me just say sorry to Kanji Likes Boys, but we're going to skip over the coronavirus question because, again, too sad.
So also, I think his question was something like, tell us about a time you've been ill. And like, I'm on this show and we don't really want it to go 6 hours. So for time, we should probably just,
Let's jump right into Celica Craze, who asked, what's a change that could be made to your least favorite video game genre to make it more appealing to you?
I thought this was kind of a difficult question because most genres I don't like. I'm inherently not interested in, and I don't think they could do one change that would turn me around. But then I'll tell you what I thought. I thought if you take soccer games like FIFA, I'm not a fan of soccer games, so I thought a change they could make to that is instead of a pitch, it's like a street, okay, and like instead of kicking a football, you're kicking 80s gang members. And instead of scoring a goal, you're going through stages fighting bosses and eating chicken out of trash cans. And if they did that, then I'd probably be into the football game genre.
So you want Cristiano Ronaldo as a Streets of Rage protagonist?
That's an idea.
But only if it's that weird bust of him that does not look anything like Cristiano Ronaldo. Has to be that version of him.
Yeah.
I think in terms of, as a more serious answer, I like JRPGs, so that doesn't really work here. But I do wish JRPGs weren't like the Persona games. I wish they weren't 100 hours long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely, yes.
everything about Persona, from its style to its characters to its music to some of its ideas to some of its weird like monsters and even its bizarre like stupidly amoral like plot lines, it's all really intriguing and kind of exciting and stylish, but like I don't want to play a fucking RPG for over 100 hours when it clearly feels like you've forced yourself to pad that story out to make it over 100 hours. And I think those Persona games are really held back by their length, seriously held back. And I know that's kind of like a controversial kind of view to a lot of RPG fans, but like those games reek of we need to put another 20 hours in somewhere. Let's have this plot beat happen. And it happens in all of them over and over again, and they're worse off for it. So JRPGs dial back the length, and I think you'll have tighter, more focused, better games.
This is really difficult because my least favorite genre is Metroidvania games, but the thing I don't like about them is sort of inherent to what they are. So maybe it would be okay to have like Metroidvania game with just a little bit more signposting about where you're supposed to go, because I have actually played one Metroidvania game that I was enjoying to a point, which is Yakuza Island Express is technically a Metroidvania game, even though it's also a pinball game. It's very much set up like a Metroidvania, but I just got stuck and I didn't know where to go, and also because I was controlling with pinball flippers, it was really sort of frustrating after a bit, and I just stopped playing. So maybe just a bit more, clues in the environment as to where you're supposed to go would be good. I mean, to be fair, I haven't played Castlevania and like the original Metroid. So maybe in those games there is a lot of signposting, but no. Okay. Well, yeah, I think it's okay to have to explore an area, but like I'm not a fan of getting lost in games. I think it goes back to what Chris was saying. I just don't. Any sort of game where my time is just spent wandering around, I just don't have the time for it anymore, so I just stopped playing. So, yeah, that would be my answer.
The original Metroid came with a map, and I think that may be the last time a Metroid or a Metroidvania came with like a map in the box. So, not necessarily signposts in the game, but you had this access to a full layout of everywhere you're supposed to go in the game that you could reference anytime. And that was kind of necessary because, it was a new genre at that point, and also all of the backgrounds were pure black. So the only difference in stages or what part of the planet you're on was the color of the ground.
I just don't have time for it anymore. Nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Dan?
I've played a lot of video games in a lot of different genres. MOBAs are probably the one genre that I just haven't given a fair shake. And I sat there like thinking about it for like a good hour and just came to the conclusion that like, no, there's nothing really to change that would make me want to play a MOBA. And that's not a knock on MOBAs. And I'm not going to preach accessibility or anything like that about MOBAs, because their learning curve is there for a reason, because they're extremely competitive. They built an entire literal league in esports money-making machine out of it all. So yeah, I don't know. MOBAs, and I don't know what to say or do to change them.
Would you be more inclined to play one if it was based on a franchise that you really liked?
No.
No?
No. Sorry, that's my boring answer.
I mean, I couldn't think of any specific genre outside of the mobile real-time strategy games like Clash of Clans. But the only improvement I can think of is just let me buy the game and play it like an RTS. But my answer for this one, I'm going to go with the kind of a franchise, and it's the Lego franchise. Because Lego gets properties that I love, Marvel, DC, Harry Potter, Star Wars, etc. But all the gameplay in these titles suck, and they suck hard. There's zero depth, and I know that people will say like they're made for kids, so stop complaining that they're not difficult. And to that I say, stop underestimating kids. give the combat some meat and trust that your audience will know how to wrap their heads around it. I know Lego games are perfect for like pick up and play, but every time I get one, it's more like pick up and put back down. So I just want better gameplay in Lego games because everything else about them I really enjoy.
And I feel like the last few, I haven't played the more recent Star Wars ones, but I did play the later Marvel ones. I find them exhausting in their monotony. Utterly exhausting. In like, because you have all these characters you love and these worlds you love, and obviously Lego's great. It looks great. It's cool. It's great to see characters stylized in that Lego fashion. But the monotony is exhausting in those games when it's just like hammer square and do nothing else for an hour. It's such a waste of how creative Lego is as a product.
That's a good point. That is a very good point.
It feels like when you go bowling with the bumpers.
Yeah.
It feels like that. Like there's no challenge. Yeah, because all of y'all are saying wonderful things. All these changes in games, fuck yeah. I love your ideas because it's all stuff I've thought of before too. Like I feel like I used to really like JRPGs when I was younger in college and had the time to spend on them, or I had friends who were playing them, and it was kind of like a group effort. We would all watch, so it might have been 100 hours, but we could like take turns, and it was an activity for all of us to enjoy. For me, it would be add fatalities to sports games, and then I'm in it.
Yeah,
I'm in it. There's fatalities in sports games. The closest we got was NFL Blitz, where you could do like a suplex on somebody if you like caught the ball incorrectly or whatever. So that's my answer. And maybe I was playing that Jedi Fallen Order, and I quit playing because they wanted you to like go through the whole fucking level again to get to the new area. If there was a way I could like jump to that new area instead of having to go through all the shit over again, the way how like Dark Souls has the unlockable bonfire things, do that. I don't want to go through this. I don't want to add 3 hours to my playtime because I have to track through the same area and I forget where to go because I'm not good. I'm like Charlotte's point. I'm not really good at knowing where I'm going in a lot of games. So an arrow or just let me jump to the new area would be great.
If there was a chance that I could knock a pitcher's head off with a straight shot in a baseball game, I would play MLB The Show. Like that would get me to play that.
Yeah.
Because baseball sucks.
Or bring back that robot baseball game, Base Wars from Nintendo, and you can like customize your robot. That shit was cool. Bring that back.
I think I did that on a what's a game that needs a remake? Destructoid Discusses question a few years ago when I still did that. I think that was the one I went with. I want a new Base Wars. You could do so much.
Nice.
No, actually, I wanted Platinum Games to make it.
Ooh.
But that actually brings me to the next question, because Anthony Marzono asked, what book do we wish we could adapt into a video game? And as luck would have it, that was also a question I asked for Destructoid Discusses. So I'm just going to go and use my answer there and say War of the Worlds has to be the classic 1899 time setting because I want horses and buggies, I want flintlock pistols, and I want gas-powered street lamps. Like I want this to be like that Gotham by Gaslight game that was supposedly being made but never came about. But War of the Worlds. So
or kind of like The Order 1886,
yes,
whatever it's called. Kind of like that kind of aesthetic, but War of the Worlds.
Exactly.
That's really cool. I'm on board with that. That's awesome.
Sony needs to make that, and I'll buy a PlayStation 5. I'm sure they're listening right now.
That's one soul.
Bated breath, wondering what can we get to get CJ to buy a PlayStation 5. Dan, what about you?
This is cheating a bit because they've already made some of these games, and I can't think of anything else at the moment, honestly. So I'm lazy and tired. But an actual decent Harry Potter game in its own timeline. Like I don't give a fuck about Harry Potter and his adventure. I want it at Hogwarts in its own separate timeline. I want to learn magic, experience all that shit. I basically want Bully, but with magic.
I've seen that request a lot. That would be the perfect Harry Potter game.
I'm going to cheat slightly as well. I can't think of an actual book that would be. I read a lot of true crime books and also just a lot of biographies, and I'm not sure if any of those would transpose very well into a game, a sensitive game, to be honest. But I've been reading a lot of boss fight books lately, and wouldn't it be really cool if there was more director's commentary in games? Like you could just
Mhm.
like have somebody who, because like boss fight books are like where somebody's picked a game and they've written a book about it, and some of them are really abstract. Like the Earthbound one that I'm reading at the moment is just like stream of consciousness, and the Kingdom Hearts 2 one is basically a retelling and analysis of the plot. So they're like going in two completely different directions with their themes, but it could really be adjusted. Like something like that could be read over the gameplay when you're playing something. That would encourage me to play games for a second time, actually, if I could have not even a director's commentary, but a commentary from games journalists, perhaps just talking through the plot of the game and like, their analysis of it. That would be really cool. Like we have it for films, why not for games?
It's not a
Yeah,
bad idea.
the idea of a criterion for video games where they do the research, they have the commentaries, essays, critical analysis, maybe even behind the scenes stuff, that would fucking blow me away. Yeah.
Dan would 100% buy the Criterion collection of Altered Beast.
Absolutely. But Half-Life actually did something very similar to that. They have like this full-blown commentary mode from the developers where once you enable it, you can go up to the various bubbles and you'll just hear developers, like bubbles in the game itself, and Half-Life 2 specifically, and the episodes. You'll just hear them talk about level design and stuff and how the testing was all this kind of stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Friday the 13th, the game had that too, oddly enough. There's like a cabin mode you could go into and just like walk up to objects and hear little snippets about the movies and the game and all that. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I wish more games would actually do that. It's really interesting.
Occams, you got an answer?
Yeah, I think when your question was posed, I think it was the one I gave, but it was Annihilation. Saw the movie, really liked the movie.
Yeah,
It's such an interesting world, like a open world kind of Last of Us vibe set in that universe. That area would be fantastic and trippy and horrific, and yeah, I would love that.
Your answer to the question I posed was actually Henry Rollins get in the van on the road to the Black Flag.
Okay, you know what? That's a good answer too. I like, but they're both great answers. How about that?
Chris?
Okay, so bear with me, all right?
Okay.
American Psycho, but it's just the day job at Pearson Pierce. Like it's American Psycho the video game, but all it is like managing like the stocks and making sure that like you turn up to all the meetings and that you don't double book, like, or that you make sure that you don't forget to kind of book a restaurant. But there's no violence and there's no working out. There's no running around naked with chainsaws. It's just everything that happens between office hours.
But then it sounds like that's more playing as Gene than as Patrick Bateman.
You know,
So maybe it's like angry Patrick Bateman, like is telling you off if you do stuff wrong.
Oh, so you're you're not Patrick Bateman, you're Gene, and you're just trying to fucking keep him on the fucking rails. I do prefer it. And then you go around to his flat and nearly get a nail gun in the face. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
There'd be a giant.
I like the idea. I like the idea that Patrick Bateman lives in a flat. He come around to my flat. But no, yeah, there you go. American Psycho, the video game, but you're actually Gene, not Patrick Bateman. And I tip my hat to Charlotte for taking my idea and improving it.
All right, finally, Zalno wants to know, 3 months from now, a headline reads, newly discovered virus found at E3. What is it called and what are its symptoms? Occams?
The name, like Con Funk. It's hard to describe unless you've been to any kind of convention. But the only symptom, the deadliest symptom, the only one it needs is that you smell like someone cooked an onion inside a hobo's asshole, which is just what the conventions smell like all the time. It is rough. Call it like hobo asshole disease.
I'm sure that'll stick. So you get shorted to had. He had. Oh, I can't believe he had. So the disease is going to be called influencer enza. It affects anyone who walks on the E3 floor looking directly into their phones as they stream to their fans and give out coupon codes for obscure merchandise that runs out of Russia. Symptoms of influencer enza include feigning stupidity, acting in an overreacted way that only impresses 12-year-olds, and only being able to remember the name pole position.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
I like that.
Charlotte?
So I haven't been into anything like E3 or Gamescom, but I've been to a lot of speedrunning sort of event, so I'm going to sort of transpose it from that. And mine would just be, I don't know what I'd call it, like strange sleepitis or something. Is that like your sleep patterns just get completely messed up, and then you can't sleep at normal times, and you get sick as a secondary thing from the fact that you've not had enough sleep or you've slept at really dodgy hours. Like, I reckon I get sick every single time I go to something like a speedrunning event. And the reason, I think, is because I don't sleep normal hours, and then my immune system gets shot, and then I get something. Like, I am trying not to panic about what's going on at the moment, because I got so sick at the end of ESA last year. I could not get out of bed in the last day. Like, anything that's not quite as bad as like standing up and instantly having to go back to bed and going through an entire pack of tissues in a day. I feel like I can handle it after the flu of last year. It was absolutely the worst flu I have ever had. So yeah, I think my it would be sort of be like an illness that is the precursor to like getting other illnesses that you just can't sleep properly.
Dan?
The G virus, it's just a thirst for G Fuel energy nonstop. It's you can't shake it. You're just purely addicted to G Fuel energy. I'm afraid our own resident e-athlete, Rocket League athlete, Brett, aka B-Donk, is already suffering from it, unfortunately.
If there's one thing I know about Brett, it's that he loves being called B-Donk.
Absolutely.
All right, we are just about out of time, but before we go, Occams, we have a community shout out this week.
Yeah, I've tried to compile a little bit of a list here. So, Wilf of the Blues is recovering from knee surgery, and she's doing well. So, shout out to her for that. Got a couple birthday shout outs. Yeah, Jetter Mars, Limo, and Vixie. And apologies if I missed anybody. I'm going to try to be better about keeping notes during the week for this stuff. And I also want to shout out all the Selfie-Toid entries this week, including first timer Elric6. Thanks for sharing your beautiful face.
Nice. All right, that is it for this episode of Podtoid. On behalf of Dan, Chris, Occam, Charlotte, and myself, thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or the Destructoid YouTube channel.